Ode to Katsina. Like the sun, breaking through the darkened face of the sky you rose, and like the rock that pierced through the surface of the earth you stand. Resting your body on top the soil that lies in the Sahel and the Savannah region of North, and you rise with broad shoulders in every sleep and fold of generation to generations to remind the world the city you are. Dashen Durbawa, Rainon Kurau, yayin da lazawa and wayewar sulabawa, they said you are. Should I sit on my buttocks or stand on my toes and sing to the world the little I had from the beautiful stories of you? The stories of your transformation from Durpita Kusheri to Katsina, the manipulation of Masca to Funtua, the advent of Bayajida and Daura, and the bravery you framed in the eyes of Hassan Usman Katsina. Tell me, how did you do it? And I promise to sing you verses in the loudest sound of my voice. You are the Katsina of Senau, the house of Kurau, and the Matatara of Sadaukai, whose name rules bravery and sprawls miracles in the heart of the country anytime a page of your history is flipped. You gave birth to leaders like Yaradua when no man was on his feet, and nurtured maestros like Shata and Barmana Chogi in your palms when creativity was at its peak. You are the Katsina ɗakin kara, ta dukka mai turawa, tudu garin ɗan marna, Beru ɗakin habijar ƙasa ta rima mai ganuwa arewa da zazzau ta kume kusurwa da Kano. Take me through the gate of Ofar Marusa and show me the art in your kofa to kofa and the secret you buried in the depth of your ancient city walls. Sit me down like a baby and feed me the magic you fed Sardauna and Tafawa Balewa in their stay in Katsina College. You are the Katsina of Daura and that home of excellence, whose every take and break of story is a speed of greatness, telling about the history of Hausa, the roots and traces of Western education in the land of North, and the bunches of grace and legacies put together to make you who you are today. Teach me how to raise children like Isa Keita, Mamman Nasir, and Hajia Dada. Fly me up to the peak of Gobarau Minaret and show me how far is Jibia to Sabua. Hold my hands and lead me through the busy market of Charinchi and sit me down on your earth and tell me more and more and more and more about your stories. I want to learn and fill my head with the beautiful wonders of you. Thank you for listening.
Okay, assalamu alaikum everyone. My name is Abdulmajid Gambo Danbaba, known as Majid Danbaba Mr. North. I am a poet and a spoken word artist. Actually, I was born and brought up in Funtua local government of Katsina State, where I did both my primary school and secondary school there in Funtua. I attended Nuruddin Nursery and Primary School. After I am done with my primary school education, I proceeded and attended Government Technical College Funtua. After I graduated from Government Technical College Funtua, I moved to Hassan Usman Katsina Polytechnic, where I had my National Diploma in Animal Health and Production Technology, and currently doing my Higher National Diploma on Agricultural Production and Management, and currently the SUG President of Hassan Usman Katsina Polytechnic. I cannot actually say this is the very day I started poetry. All I know is that, or when people ask me of when I started poetry, I do used to say that I'm a masterpiece of poetry, or I'm a living poetry. Poetry discovered me. I wasn't the one that discovered poetry, because if I could remember in those days when I was in secondary school, I was able to be the speaker of press club and jet club of my school. So then, all I do when I come on stage to read news, I read my news in beautiful intonation. So my colleagues began to call me a spoken word artist. And could you imagine that I've never attended a literature class? In fact, I attended a technical school, as I said, and I don't know anything about literature. So I just started thinking, what's this poetry and spoken word all about? What's the poetry and spoken word all about? So I started searching and watching videos online on YouTube and attending classes. There is where I discovered my poetry talent, or let me say my hidden talent of poetry. I have a lot of things and a lot of plans about poetry. You see, I met a lot of people online, people that are passionate about poetry, and people that are ready to take the northern poetry to the next level. Likewise, as an enthusiast of poetry, I also have these plans of taking our northern poetry to another level. If some of you will go through my timelines on Facebook or any of my social media handles, you will see that I mostly write about culture in order to promote northern culture. In fact, I'm even known for my ability to write poetry and do poetry in Gausa, which is not actually common in poetry community. So since I have dedicated my time in writing about northern culture, this actually means that my plan about poetry is to promote northern culture and to take our culture to the okay, to even like let me see, to even take northern culture to overseas if possible. So I have a lot of things about poetry. In fact, there was a time I had a conversation with my friend. He asked me of what did I want to achieve in poetry? Could you imagine? Did you know what I replied? What I replied with? I told him that I want to win a Grammy Award. I know it's not easy actually. Actually, when I meet someone that wants to start poetry, the first thing I do is to tell them, or the first thing I will tell that person is, read, read and make researches. You see, poetry has no boundaries. Poetry can be written in every language, and poetry can be written about everything. So poetry is vast. Read and study well about poetry. Don't just come online and be writing poetry anyhow you like, because poetry has its rules. It has things that are governing it, and it has elements and devices that makes it to be poetry. So if you're an aspiring poet, the only advice I will have for you is to read. Read till you read. And if you want to be a spoken word artist, you should not just see that you will copy or you actually imitate from what someone is doing. Though it's good to learn from someone, you can watch someone's video and be practicing the way that person does, but try to discover your own voice. Don't just say that you are going to do your thing or you're going to write exactly the way your favorite writer does. No, it can never happen that way. Poetry is like a handwriting. Everyone has his. So try as much as you could to discover your own voice of poetry. Don't just copy from people. I can say the people that inspired me to start poetry aren't even poets. My first inspiration of poetry is Mama Shata. We all know Mama Shata. Mama Shata is a singer. I just love his style and the way he does his things. After Mama Shata, I can count on the likes of Abubakar Ladan Zaria, and I know everyone watching this knows who Abubakar Ladan Zaria is. And I can count on a little number of poets like Buna Muhammad. Buna Muhammad has been a source of inspiration to me. I've learned a lot from his work. In fact, he was even the person that inspired me to start spoken word, apart from pitch poetry. Though there's a difference between pitch poetry and spoken word poetry. So Buna Muhammad was my inspiration. It's my inspiration behind spoken word poetry. Okay, the difference between pitch poetry and spoken word poetry. Pitch poetry is a kind of poetry that is meant to be in written form. It doesn't have any intonations. The writer will just sit down and write poem without any intention of reciting it or performing it on stage. Whereby spoken word poetry is a poetry written for live performances. Right from the very time the writer is going to write it, he'll write it with beautiful intonations, with the intonations that he's going to use in the performance or the recitation of the poem. So this is the only difference we have between pitch poetry and spoken word poetry. Actually, I have almost 3 poems that meant too much to me. The first poem is Gargajia. This Gargajia means a lot to me because it has taken me to places. In fact, I can even see most of the people that know me about poetry know me with this Gargajia, because Gargajia, I even won the Ariwa Creative Poet of the Year in 2021 with this Gargajia, the whole northern Nigeria. It's an Ingausa poem. It says a lot about northern culture and tradition, right from our way of life, food, dressing, and everything. Then the second one is Deep Inside Me. Deep Inside Me is a poem I just wrote overnight. The inspiration behind Deep Inside Me was people just used to see me like I don't have anything that is bothering me, or I don't have anything that I'm going through. Meanwhile, I have been going through a lot and still going through a lot. I just decided to, just pick up my pen and write something about what I'm going through. Then the last one is a poem I wrote just 3 to 4 days ago. The title of that poem is This Morning Again. This poem says about my father's death. So it actually means a lot to me. Okay, I mostly write about culture. Just from my dressing and from the way I do things, I'm somewhat attached to culture, most especially Northern culture, African culture in general. You see, this world is full of inspirations. We have a lot of things that inspire us. Right now, as I'm talking to you, I'm even inspired with the way you talk. And actually, I'll write a poem about it. Sometimes you may be inspired from the happenings around you. Sometimes the books you read. Sometimes the reflection of yourself. Sometimes you can be inspired by everything. And sometimes when the inspiration comes to my head, the first thing I do is dance. There was a piece I wrote about Katsina. So when the thing came into my mind that I want to write about Katsina, I first read 8 books about the history of Katsina, Katsina in the 10,000 years and Katsina of today, where I read the books of Professor Luga, the likes of Tijani and Gawan, a lot of things before I penned down that poem. So it took me almost 2 weeks before I could be able to come up with the piece. So when an inspiration comes into my head, the first thing I do is I'll first sit down and see how am I going to put every piece of thing that came into my mind, that comes into my mind in stanzas. I'll start with the arrangement of the stanzas. After I'm done with the arrangement of the stanzas, then I'll come back and go through what I have written, edit and remove things that do not supposed to be here. Aside from poetry, I'm a fashion designer and actually I do voiceovers. I do voiceovers in Hausa, English, and even Pidgin English.